Hi everyone, my name is Kira Chapman, and today for my current event, I will be talking about diversity in the music industry in front and behind the scenes. So before I dive in, I will be talking about the background of the music industry and how it has led to where it is now. To fully understand the issues associated with diversity in the music industry, or dare for lack of it, learning the history of the music industry is essential to understanding the effects that it has in the present. The music industry started in the late 19th century with Edison's phonograph paving the way for sound recording and distribution. However, the music industry became prominent in the 1920s when the radio became more accessible in America, where music began to spread widely, sparking genres like jazz, blues, and rock and roll. Genres such as these were originally influenced and played by Black artists. For example, Chuck Berry was a Black musician known to have created rock and roll, and Jimmie Rodgers was also a Black musician who is labeled as the father of country music, which are genres presently dominated by white musicians. So, how are genres previously influenced and dominated by Black musicians suddenly began to be dominated by white musicians? How are genres originally dominated by Black musicians, such as hip hop and R&B, continue to be Black dominated? Lastly, how can other underrepresented groups, such as Hispanics, Asians, women, and queers, be represented in the music industry? Well, let me answer those questions. Although rock and roll and country have been primarily influenced by Black musicians, it is not a genre that is primarily consumed and produced those in the white community. This happened during the 1950s when Black musicians such as Chuck Berry, Little Richard, and Sister Rosetta Sharp were edged out by white musicians such as Bill Haley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and most commonly known, Elvis Presley, who is proclaimed as the king of rock and roll. This was mainly due to racially segregated market practices, where those who led those practices behind the scenes were white men. Many Black musicians were not given the space to compete among their white counterparts, leading to the shift of rock and roll domination in the white community. Those behind the scenes opted to make the sound of Black rock and roll more digestible for white audiences. They began marketing too, which eventually led to rock and roll and country to fade away in the Black music industry and community. Since then, many genres such as heavy metal, and punk spurred from this occurrence, which is heavily associated with and produced by white musicians. Hip hop began to rise in the 1970s New York with the intended purpose of telling stories of their hardships through the use of rhyme and poetry. However, it was not until the 1990s that hip hop came to be seen as problematic and harmful for society, especially for white middle class youth, maintaining hip hop dominance in the Black community. Other underrepresented groups, such as Hispanics, Asians, women, and queers, face difficulty to succeed in the industry due to the lack of representation and acceptance. Outside of the Far East movement, have you ever wondered why there are little to no prominent Asian musicians in the American industry? Well, it's believed that Asians have little to no roots in American history and music industry. Therefore, Asian musicians do not have a specific niche market they can cater to. Instead, they have to get in where they fit in, which is not which is why it's not uncommon to see Asian musicians producing music in various genres not linked to their culture, such as hip hop, R&B, rock, and more. Hispanic musicians also face difficulty in representation in the industry due to the lack of it behind the scenes. However, artists like Shakira and more recently Bad Bunny have managed to break through barriers and help spread the awareness of Latin music in the American music industry. In this next section of this presentation, I will be discussing everything related to the issues surrounding the lack of diversity in the music industry, who is involved, and why it is important. Based on historical implications, the main issues that is presently facing the music industry concerning diversity is systemic racism. Systemic racism perpetuates a cycle of unequal opportunities and limits the exposure and recognition of artists of color, such as Hispanic, Asian, and Black artists, especially in white dominated genres. Because of this issue, creative freedom is limited in the ability to succeed in genres that do not reinforce stereotypes. White musicians are given the opportunity to succeed in genres dominated by the Black community, such as hip hop and R&B. However, Black artists are not given the same opportunities when it comes to country and rock. For example, Eminem is a white rapper who has won awards and recognition in music categories mainly dominated by Black musicians, but there have been countless times like Black musicians in white dominated music categories such as country may receive nominations, but typically never win the awards. Even though I do not believe genres should be associated with and limited to race, the system is built on that, which is why people have a hard time when artists chart and win awards in genres not typically associated with their racial and ethnic background. I also believe another part of this reason this issue exists has to do with each community limiting themselves to genres that are still associated with their background, as well as the backlash people may receive if they produce or listen to music not associated with their community, which perpetuates the problem even further. The industry is also filled with prejudice, limiting underrepresented groups from succeeding in the music industry. Many people of color and in the queer community are not given the same opportunities as white musicians and producers due to the fact that it is dominated and led primarily by white men. So you may wonder, who does it involve and why is it important? Well, if you really think about it, it involves everyone, from the ones producing the music to the ones consuming it. The music industry is mostly preoccupied with white individuals in leadership positions, which makes it even more difficult for underrepresented groups to succeed in the space. It was determined that out of the senior management industry, only 18.8% of the executive board members were from underrepresented groups, with 8.5% who are Black and 39.8% were female, despite the fact that the industry profits greatly from underrepresented artists, where the people who closely manage their careers are white and often male. The development and advancement of technology have allowed us to discover sounds and individuals from all around the world who have unique ideas and perceptions of music and storytelling. It breaks down it breaks down barriers and fosters innovation, which leads to a more inclusive industry. Without diversity, we would not live in such a dynamic world. So many underrepresented marginalized groups in the American industry are not given the same opportunities to succeed because they have a harder time coming into place of power in the industry. Just imagine how much more dynamic the music industry would be if the industry was more inclusive and accepting of talented individuals of all backgrounds. Now, I will be discussing the four C's of marketing and its impact on the industry. When it comes to content marketing of the music industry, in the music industry, things that need to be considered is brand image and people of leadership. Industry executives play a crucial role in shaping the careers of artists and overall direction of the industry. However, the diversity in musicians limit the opportunities for underrepresented communities. Brand image is highly associated with the success of artists in the music industry and its ability to reach audiences of different backgrounds, but are oftentimes influenced by higher execs in charge. From the name of the artist to the fashion, this dictates its success in specific genres. These aspects perpetuate the stereotypes often seen as essential to properly breaking into specific scenes. However, I'm hoping that the increase of diversity of artists will also mean an increase of diversity in image. No more cowboy hats, associations with country music, or gold chains for hip hop. I believe these reinforce stereotypes associated with these genres that and instead should focus on being yourself. Not everyone who listens to these specific kinds of music reflect what is typically represented by them. The marketing of consumption presents a challenge when there is a lack of diversity. The consumption of different genres of music and artists is limited when those from different backgrounds are not given a platform to promote their music to audiences that reflect them accordingly. That means that not only the musicians experience limitations, but consumers do as well, lessening the chances for discovering new content and innovation in music. Technology allows the opportunity for music to be marketed to diverse audiences. However, there are limitations when it comes to diverse representation in the music industry, as there is concern for cultural appropriation and misrepresentation. It is vital to put people from diverse backgrounds in decision making positions to ensure that there is no opportunity for music to be misrepresented to the point of mockery. For example, technology permits the opportunity to discover different kinds of music. However, subgenres like K pop, which is based in South Korea, is influenced by many Western genres, have been misrepresented and appropriated to the point of mockery. As time progresses, however, the K pop industry creates content that appropriately reflects the culture of the music being produced by giving opportunities to artists from those respective backgrounds to correctly represent the genre of music that is wanting to be portrayed and created. Increasing diversity among those in leadership is essential for creating a more inclusive and diverse industry. Having those from underrepresented backgrounds in leadership can lead to the discovery and promotion of diverse talent, fostering increase fostering inclusivity in educational programs and institutions that train aspiring industry professionals can increase inclusivity in the music industry for future generations. The industry should prioritize implementing transparent and unbiased selection processes such as blind auditions, policies that promote equal pay, and diversifying recruitment strategies. Not only those in power, but consumers as well, should challenge industry norms and biases as well as actively seek out and support diverse artists and genres. So, in conclusion, diversity in the music industry, in front and behind the scenes, is heavily influenced by those who are in leadership positions in the industry. This greatly impacts both artists and consumers in ways that limit a dynamic industry and society. Historical implications and systemic racism are the main drivers for the limitations of diversity in the industry. Artists and consumers may be limited in what is produced and consumed, which can be problematic. This can lead to misrepresentation and cultural appropriation. Everyone involved in the music industry should be given the opportunity to thrive in positions and genres one so desires. This will ensure that diversity in the industry is correctly represented. This may include fostering inclusivity in educational institutions, creating blind auditions, and other DEI strategies. Although the music industry has long been dominated by white males in executive positions, where the promotion of diverse music was limited, I believe that the evolving society due to globalization, education, and acceptance will slowly but surely change the operation of the music industry.